You're now listening to the Key Witness Media Podcast with Kurt Maggs. Kurt Maggs Radio.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is the Key Witness Media Podcast with your host, Kurt Maggs, in the building. What's popping? We'll be right back with you. Hope to have a good episode here. And, hey, I'll be right back with you. I'm going to play a song, Drift, by Kurt Maggs.
Key Witness Music.
Kurt Maggs Radio. Hey, we're back in the building for another quick episode. Everybody, that song was called Drift. Kurt Maggs, me, myself, and I, fully produced, mixed, and mastered by me. Definitely appreciate all the things that God has bestowed upon me, all the gifts and talents. I want to be able to use them and be able to create. The ability to create things is a gift that all of us have. We all have something special in our lives that we can do. And hey, man, just use your gift and talents to the best of your ability and watch things happen. You know what I'm saying? So never forget that. I'm going to be able to. This is not going to be too much longer. We know that we have we're down to the final four. And it looks like we got Gonzaga, UCLA, Houston, and right now I can't remember the other team's name. But I'm definitely going to be checking that out and hopefully we can get to see. Maybe Gonzaga can probably go ahead and finally pull it out. So let's see what happens. Now, I do like Houston. I go all the way back to the days of the Phi Slamma Jamma, and I like the coach Kelvin Sampson. Kelvin Sampson once was with Indiana University, but some things happened, and that's not for me. You can go ahead and look that up if you want to. But he's definitely, to me, I thought he was a good coach, and I think he would have did something good for Indiana. But shout out to Mike Woodson, who has an opportunity to have Indiana get back on board. So we just want the success for him. Mike Woodson is the former Indiana University basketball player. I believe he played in the late 70s, early 80s. And I guess for him to have an opportunity, and I guess for anybody who was once a player coming out of college, you do want the opportunity to be able to go back to where you started at your career and be able to make something happen. So shout out to Mike Woodson, and definitely would hope that you can bring Indiana back to its prominence. Be like what Bobby Knight, how he left it, and things can happen for the better for Indiana. They've definitely been working hard trying to get themselves back into being the elite basketball team that they were. But let's see what Mike Woodson can do. Let's give him all the encouragement that he needs in order to make that successful. Also, shout out to Juwan Howard. He was able to make Michigan look pretty good, and it was his first time coaching. I believe within Papa, I'm gonna give him another couple of years, and he can put the squad around him that he wants, and he can definitely do his own recruiting. And he did a masterful job with what he had. So shout out to Juwan Howard for just coming up, being competitive. It was a good look. That was a good look. I wanted to talk about some of the things that I'm trying to do as far as just little knick-knack goals that I'm trying to set right now. I went and bought a one of those custom shoe kit with the paint. I bought a dryer and things like that. I wanted to be able to customize gym shoes and anything else as far as, bags and things like that. So I went on and bought a kit. I'm working on trying to get some stencils, but it's just something I was always amazed of how these guys were able to make these gym shoes look so good. And you customize them, and you can put your own colors and your own lettering. So I did have an opportunity to try one. This was probably about a good 6-7 months ago, if not longer. And man, it looked like trash. It looked bad. I remember I sent a picture to my nephew, and I told him, "Hey, how do these look?" And his response was, he was trying to be respectful. He was just like, "Okay, that's keep going, keep working on it." But that's something I always wanted to do. Just so I'm gonna just try it. End up buying a kit from this company called Angelus, and I'm hoping that I can go ahead and customize some shoes. Right now, I bought a bunch of old shoes. I went to the Salvation Army and bought some gym shoes just so that I could practice and able to get that technique down, because that's a lot of work. And shout out to all the ones, man, who customize anything. It takes a lot of work, and that's a skill and a gift that that these guys have. And you got to have a passion for it and love what you're doing. And a lot of times your love and passion can open up doors and can create financial opportunities that many others desire to have. So just keep doing what y'all doing. To all my gym shoe customizers, hopefully I can jump on board, put my name up there with y'all, No, I don't think it's going to take a long time before I can even say that I've mastered the art of customizing gym shoes. Like I said, I'm going to try different things, maybe bags and things like that. But I definitely going to have to order me some stencils in order to just make my stuff try it on myself first before I try to do it for anybody else. So once I do that, I'm going to post up a picture on my first creative impression of what I believe is a masterpiece. So I'll definitely post a picture of that so all of y'all can check it out. So let's see what we got. I think I'm gonna bring you a Days of Our Lives skit right here. Another episode. Yeah. Yeah, you know what? I was just thinking about a couple of months ago, and when you first decided you wanted to want to make money. And I went from, raking leaves, of course, as kids and everything. You want to rake leaves, make some extra money, cutting grass. And I'm going back before the lawnmowers. I'm talking about the old hand push mower. So you went and cut grass with that, went and shoveled snow, raked leaves, various things like that. Maybe take out somebody's garbage or clean up something, clean up and get the trash out the yard. And I've always was somebody who wanted to go make money and just to have money in my pocket, whether it's to buy candy or something, a pop or whatever, just to have my own money, or just go out and buy Burger King or McDonald's or something like that. And I think one of the lessons that I learned early on is about how business work and how dealing with customers are. And when it comes down to actually receiving your worth as far as pay. And I remember when I turned 13 years old, I decided to get a job working as a paperboy. Anybody remember that? Yeah, I'm going way back. Now that I've seen people who deliver, it's grown people. It's adults who are pretty much delivering the paper, if a paper is even being delivered at all. I was going to in the newspaper, they used to print out the Gary Post Tribune. Shout out to the Gary Post Tribune, which is no longer in existence. I believe it's like the Sun Times or something like that now. And I decided to we used to get the paper daily, and there was always the want ad section. So I decided that I wanted to be a paper boy and to make some money. And I'm talking about a good $30 or $40 every 2 weeks, and thinking that's a lot of money. Back then, that was a lot of money, especially if you was 13 years old. I'm thinking that I can buy me a car when I turn 16. It should be a guy named Spuck. Spuck was older than us. He was in high school, and Spuck had a Trans Am, Pontiac Trans Am, and most of us, we're younger. We always looked up to Spuck because Spuck had a Trans Am and he had a motorcycle. And I think Spuck was 17 and 18 years old, spoiled. He was definitely a spoiled kid. It's like, how did you have all of this in high school? But he had to, I'm going to call it what it is. He was spoiled. So remember that being a goal of buying my own car. I wanted to have my own Trans Am or Firebird. And so I decided I'm going to get this paper route. And I got the paper route. And, the manager at the time was Mr. Enos. shout out to Mr. Enos. I believe he passed away, I'm going to say about 7, 8 years, 9 years ago. I remember seeing it in the paper, but I remember my mom making the call and contacting them and letting them know that I had a desire to be PaperBoy. So Mr. Enos sets up the appointment. He comes to meet me and talks to my mom, and we're going back and forth over the details. And he tells me, well, you're going to receive a book. And he was letting me know where the papers were going to be dropped off on. It was going to be dropped off at the corner. So there was going to be bundles sitting there where I would collect the papers. I could take them home and roll them up. And they gave you a Post-Tribune issued bag where you carried all of your newspapers. And it was letting me know what my route was going to be. So my route, I believe I had about 15 blocks, which was huge. But I'm thinking that I'm going to stack up a lot of paper. So he said, hey, you have an opportunity to make probably $75 every 2 weeks. So I'm like, man, that car is coming sooner than I thought. And he said, you got an opportunity to make about $75. And so he's telling me about the past people who worked those routes. And this was quite a bit away from home. So I decided that I was going to, I'm going to make that $75 every 2 weeks. And I'm going to do the best that I can and be one of the best paper boys that ever lived. That's how I thought at that time. And I still do. I always want to be the best in everything that I do, but I wanted to always be dependable. And what that taught me was that I had to be on time, because I would have to deliver these papers after school and on the weekends, first thing in the morning. So he comes by, he drops off the book, where it's a coupon book of where they would be paying me, as far as picking up the payments and these little tickets that we would have to drop off to the each person who was getting a paper. And he let me know when the days that I needed to collect. So I decided that I'm going to make sure as soon as I get out of school, I'm going to go ahead and get my papers wrapped up, and I'm going to hit the ground running. So my first day, I get out there, and it was a little bit of confusion because the addresses were already established on there. And there's a couple of times where I forgot to give some of the people their paper. So just a little bit of confusion. I wasn't, really focusing on, after a while that bag got heavy. Let me just keep it real. So the bag got, was real heavy. So I'm trying to hurry up and just get the paper route done. So I might have rushed and threw it to the wrong house, really not looking at the numbers on the house. So after being told off the next day about you didn't deliver my paper, and made an apology, and told them they can just deduct it from the payment. And trust me, they had already told me they were going to deduct it from the payment. So I apologized to them, and they said it was okay. We know things do happen, and the fact that I was new and everything. So they would ask me what happened to the last PaperBoy, and I told them, well, I didn't know. They don't discuss that with me, of course. So I was vastly approaching, getting used to it. I think the struggles was that getting up early in the morning to go get those papers was a little bit challenging. There was people, I would go down and go get those bundles, and there were people taking those papers out of the bundles. First thing I learned about adults doing that, because there was no kids stealing newspapers. So sometimes there would be papers missing. And guess where that money came from that I had to replace that? Yeah, sometimes I would be the one to be responsible for that. So that meant I needed to be down there to, when they made the drop, that I needed to get down there and get those papers collected. So after a while, they told me there was a lot of times that you can call a Post-Tribune, and I let all of the customers know that you can call a Post-Tribune and they'll have someone come out and drop off a paper because some people are stealing the newspapers off the block. So they said, okay. So I try to get to know my customers and what they want and needs and things like that. And so I decided to, hey, you know what? It's collection time. It's coming. So I've already started counting my money. So I said, I'm going to go to Rick's, get my candy here, and put my savings up to get my car here, and fix up my bike, and, probably get a basketball hoop. Just things like, just things you just start thinking of when you're going to get all of this money. And so I got my coupon book, started, passing out the papers and canvassing the neighborhood. So as I'm, going to the first house, I knock on the door. There's somebody said, PaperBoy. They said, yes, okay, what's going on? I was like, I'm bringing you your paper, and also it's collection day. So they were like, oh, okay, here's your money. So they paid me the money. Pretty cool, no problem. Go to the second house, same thing. PaperBoy, and it was like, collect. It was like, okay, here's your money, and this and that. And thank you for making sure my paper here is on time and making sure it's not wet and everything. So I'm like, okay. I was like, I appreciate it. I was like, I'm enjoying my job. Even ran across people that was like, hey, you're doing a good job and this and that. And at 13 years old, that's very encouraging. So I definitely appreciated everybody who, along that walk, sometimes people will be looking out for you. There's every now and then you'll have to deal with a dog. And, could you please put your dog away or put him on a chain so I don't have to worry about getting attacked? And they were like, okay, we're going to try to make sure we keep our animals and everything. So I'm collecting all of this and going through. But you know what? I learned some valuable lessons on people that are being slick. And I'm knocking on the door, and I'll put, let them know it's to collect. Nobody would answer, but you can hear a TV, and the TV volume stops. You can hear it from out, from the window. So it's like, collect. Nobody's answering. Nobody says anything. So I drop the paper, put it, stick it in the door. And by the time I come back and do my route again, heading back home, I noticed the paper is gone. Now, probably out of the 90-something houses that I dropped off a paper, I noticed that about a good 15 or 20, when it was time, for the collection time, they wouldn't respond or answer. So I ended up calling Mr. Enos the next day, and I was like, well, I have some of the money for the collection, because there was I think they came and picked them up on a Friday. So I told him, I was like, I don't have all the money. He said, oh, you're going to have to just keep going and keep going back and knocking on the door. I'm like, okay. So I'm thinking at that point, I was like, well, he's probably going to have to go and pick up the money, because I'm not going to keep doing this all the time. That Monday, I called him again and told him, I was like, I still don't have all of the money. I was like, I've collected. I was like, but some people are just ignoring me. I said, so what do I do? Just keep. He said, no. He said, just stop the paper. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to stop delivering the paper to the house until they collect, pay the collections. The very next time that I went back and did my route, there were people yelling at me and going off. I'm only 13. These are grown adults, and they did not. And I'm telling them, I was like, I was told to not drop off these papers until you pay me. There was one lady who starts waggling her shoe at me. I want my paper. You supposed to pay me? I'm not paying you until you bring my paper. I'm like, well, ma'am, it's been like 3 or 4 days, and I was like, they're asking for their money. And one thing that I learned on that first experience of collecting, the Post Tribune got their money first, and it was up for me to hustle to get my money. They took theirs off the top. So I say, okay, this is how this goes. So after the second week, and the route is it's starting to get hot because it's getting close to summertime. I think this was in June. And I started the paper route late in May. And so I decided that everybody that was in my neighborhood, some of the people that I played sports with and everything, I was like, hey, you know what? I need some help with my paper route. And I'm willing to give you all a couple of dollars just to help me speed up this route. And that's when I started learning about how business works. My first set of employees. And I had about 7 or 8. We're all about the same age, so a couple of dollars in their pockets sounded real good. And they were already kind of inspired and was glad that somebody decided to be a paper boy, and they wanted to follow in the same footsteps. Lo and behold, when it's time to collect again, same drama, same thing. Now my employees is worried about, hey, are you going to pay us? So, of course, I had to make sure the Post Tribune had their money first. Then the people that I had helping me, I had to make sure they received their money. And I'm still haven't collected the money from the payments from the first time. Now I'm on my second round. And I'm saying to myself, I only have like $11 and $12 for myself now. So I had to lay off some of my employees so I can have a little bit more money. And until this day, there are people that still haven't paid me. And we're talking almost over 30 years ago. I learned a quick thing about business and how things work. And you have to satisfy the customer. But a lot of times, some of the customers don't want to make sure that they live up to their bargain. The Post Tribune offered a service of having daily papers. And it was my job to make sure that I delivered those papers. They wanted to be on time. They wanted to make sure that I dropped those papers off. And everybody wants a paper that is dry. You'd be surprised at how many people were delivering papers that were wet, soggy, and then wanted to be able to collect. And I learned about business and how it worked at a young age. Because usually when you're cutting grass and raking, you say, hey, I want $5. I'll rake your grass for $5. And you got the $5. But that was the first time I had an opportunity to look at things from a whole different perspective. I think that was like my first look into the business world, working, being a job and an employee, and working for a big company as the Post Tribune at that time. And I tell anybody, make sure you be the best that you can be, and hopefully to be rewarded for what you do. Now, I say this, I've always been fascinated with business, and that was like the first time that I had the first opportunity. And I've been involved in quite a few other small business ventures, things that was able to help me become better and understand people, understand patterns and things that's associated with business. And I remember one of my lifelong dreams was to get a degree in business. Now, I was able to get that degree in business from Indiana Wesleyan University, which I am an alumni. Taught me a lot. From what I know now, if I would have known then, I would have handled things a lot differently. And I probably would have made that $75 every 2 weeks. Been driving around with Trans Am like Spuck back in the day. If your goal is to be and master something that you wanted to do all your life, And I was considered a lifelong learner. And if you have a goal in mind and you needed to further your education, I believe that Indiana Wesleyan University can offer so much for you. I was able to learn and get a better understanding on how the supply chain works and gross domestic product and how the accounting works and how to handle HR issues and be able to manage leadership, all of these different things that'll make sense to you when you start getting further and further in business. Now, I've had my own side business ventures, and it's usually based around music. But even in that, I was able to handle certain things and understanding my trademarks and how to handle paperwork and what to do as far as just handling business on it in a general sense, and how to even as far as a worldwide market and understanding that everything is global now and no longer just local. No matter what your age is, you can go back and achieve any goal that you want to. Make it your business in order to do whatever you can. There's so much out there, and there's so much things are going on. We know that this pandemic at some point is going to dwindle down. And a lot of people were caught off guard when this pandemic hit. There was some companies that'll never come back. I remember my daughter had a job in high school, and she was working for a place called Steinmart. Steinmart went out of business during the pandemic. They were not able to keep up. And we know that your global companies like Amazon and Walmart, and we're going to probably still have your Target stores and things like that. But a lot of them are not going to ever come back. Even a lot of restaurants. That was one thing I always wanted to do. I wanted to have my own restaurant. Boy, if I go into that, I wanted to have cots in my restaurant because you ate so much food, you would have to go lay down. That's another. I'm going to save that story for another day. But I remember my uncle talked about me one day having a restaurant when I was in high school, and I'm going to go into that story at some point. But whatever it is that you want to do, stay focused, because we don't have that. We don't have all the time that we think we have. There was a lot of people who are not here that didn't get to live out their dreams and their goals. And like I said, one of my goals was to actually become just to get things done. So whoever you are, wherever you are, let you know that a lot of times it's up to you. It's up to you to make it happen. Like I said, what I know now as far as handling business, at 13 years old as a paperboy, I would have my $75 every 2 weeks because I would know how to handle my business. Peace and God bless.
You're now listening to the Key Witness Media Podcast with Kurt Maggs. Kurt Maggs Radio.